Welcome back to Out of the Fog. Now time for our feature interview of the evening with singer-songwriter and now speaker Sean McCann. He was here back home performing a concert for Easter Seals, and that's where I met up with him just before rehearsal at the Sheraton Hotel to talk about alcoholism, why he broke his silence publicly about sexual abuse and life after Great Big C. Here's our conversation. Sean, great to see you again.
Great to see you again.
Yes, welcome home.
It is nice to be back.
So tell me, you're living in Ottawa now. How long have you been living there for?
Just over a year. We moved up just in time for September 2016 for the kids to start school. And just in time, so we literally got in our house the week before. And it was a good thing because I had already booked about 30 dates in Ontario. So if we hadn't, it would have all, it was part of the plan. And so we've been there over a year, and the adjustment process has been, it's never easy to do, and we certainly miss Newfoundland, but I think of all the places we could have picked, and there were other opportunities, I think we picked the right place, and there's really reassurance. And Ottawa has shown us great love and a very soft landing. Kids had no trouble at school. And there was lots of opportunities for me, so it was great.
Is there anything when you come home, like is there any must-dos? Do you make a little list depending on how much time you have here?
Well, I eat as much of my mom's food as I can, and because you don't get, like we had, you don't get a lot of the salt beef and stuff. There's a Newfoundland diet that I realized that I'm a victim of, and I miss desperately. I miss the salt air, so I had to get outside here. There's not much salt in the air in Ottawa. There's other things in the air, but not salt. And Leo's fish and chips is something that I kind of fixate on. I didn't think that would be one of those things, but it is. It's something like, I wish we had one, but there's just only one.
It's probably good that you don't in one sense, but.
I think I would come back to Newfoundland, St. John's once a year just to have it.
Just to have Leo's fish and chips.
I'm a huge fan.
When you're moving up there, you've been there for a year now, does, you kind of hear people say it kind of gives you a greater appreciation for home when you kind of remove yourself from it for, I guess, a period of time. Did you feel any of that? Was there anything that you felt differently about Newfoundland and Labrador?
It's interesting. As an artist, looking at it from a distance, I have a different perspective. I feel like while I was here for so long, I was in it looking out, and now I'm out looking in, and it's like it's an inverted mirror or something. And there are songs that I'm kind of working on, and I'll be putting out a new material this year. I don't know what you call a CD anymore, or what it is, but I still write songs, and I still love to do shows in theaters. I don't do bars or anything anymore, but I think it's given me a healthier perspective in many ways on the realities that we face as Newfoundlanders. And of course, the sheer beauty of the natural environment here, which, we should never lose sight of. This is our great asset. And we talk about our people, which is true. Our culture is unique. A lot has changed for you over the last few years. You opened up publicly about being abused by a priest when you were a teenager. I'm just wondering, and going from, you were in Great Big C and then going in as a solo artist. Let's talk about that a little bit first. In terms of being a solo artist, do you miss playing with Great Big C at all? Not really. I think I do respect what we had accomplished. When we were focused on the same goals, we were capable of great things, and that, we burst out of the 90s in the age of grunge and provided a real alternative that was positive. And it was a huge party band, and I think it was at a time, especially after the COD moratorium, which is exactly what we came out of that year, 1992. We were a rare positive beacon of light in a young generation. We were all in our early 20s, and we were all facing unemployment. So we ended up traveling. We took a risk. We took a gamble. We got a record deal. We worked so hard. We weren't the best band. No doubt about it. And anyone in St. John's will know that. Anyone's a musician. But we all wanted to be successful, and we weren't lazy at all. We worked so hard. And the secret to our success was that we were focused on the same goal. And honestly, that goal was to be huge, in my opinion anyway. And to that end, we were successful. But when you get to be huge, at least for me, and I can only speak for me, you get there at the top of the mountain, and you spend some time there, and you realize there's not much room to walk around, because the top of the mountain is like tiny. And if you want to stay there and not fall off, you're afraid, and I use the word fear, you're afraid to change anything because you might lose the top of the mountain, which is the most valuable prize in your mind. But I've come to learn that it isn't. And at least for me it wasn't, and it left me feeling unsatisfied. And we often hear about this, but we make an awful lot of decisions for the sake of money or fame and in our lives. And having made something like that and having lived that life, it's not enough. And you only get one life. And I feel I'll be 50 in May, and I feel like I'm half finished. And just because I was there for a while doesn't mean I have to stay there if it made me unhappy or it left me wanting. I can move, and as long as I'm not afraid to lose what I've achieved. So you gamble again. I've done that before. When I was 23, I did that. When I bought my guitar, I did that. You know, life's too short not to take those gambles, and that's what I did. And for me, being in Canada's biggest party band was a problematic place, and it was very unhealthy because I am an alcoholic. And you know, it wasn't the only reason I left. We certainly had our differences on business and how to approach the big changes in the industry. But ultimately, it was a hard place to be on that bus as a sober person, so I had to change.
What was that turning point for you that you realized you had to change?
Well, like many alcoholics, I embraced my higher power. And her name is Andrea. She's my wife. And she loved me enough to have an intervention and basically say, look, this ride has been this way so far, whatever, up and down with you. And, you know, but this is it. This is the line in the sand. And I remember I was drinking a glass of white wine at the time. She said, you finish that glass of wine and we're done. Like, so I put it down. And she gave me that ultimatum that I needed, and I was, for whatever reason, that was a moment of clarity, and I put that glass of wine down 5 years ago, November 9th, 2011. And I guess a good fright really helps sometimes, but I had the perspective very clearly that of all the things I'd gained and achieved, I was gambling it away with booze, and because I was unhappy. So I quit drinking, and but then, you know, what happens when you quit drinking, you start to feel very isolated. This happened. And more importantly, I guess, in the long run, was that I was forced to face my own past, which I was using alcohol to bury. And
that was masking what you were really feeling inside from previous years.
If you have a dependency on alcohol, if you're an addict, I mean, what I've learned and what studies show is that many people, the majority of people who have these problems they stem from a trauma or an event. And in my case, it was sexual abuse by a priest, and I was drinking as much as I could to anesthetize myself and not deal with that problem. So by stopping drinking, I had to face that problem. I couldn't hide from it anymore. And the hardest part about that whole thing was dealing with that. And I'm really glad. The only way to defeat a secret, I believe a secret can kill you. And the only way to defeat one is to tell it. So that's why I ultimately chose to come out, because I don't think if I hadn't been honest with myself and acknowledged this, I wouldn't have been able to move forward, and I wouldn't have been able to remain sober. So. And
does that mean coming out, to your family, or does that mean because you did come out publicly with it?
Yeah.
Did you decide to come out publicly with it to essentially share your experience, knowing that there are other people who can, learn from your personal situation?
Yeah, partly, but really it was just to blow that secret right up. Like I need, if I'm a kind of all in or not, and it's always been my approach to life. And in this case, it was like, well, I'm an alcoholic. I'll stop drinking, and I managed to after several failed attempts. But with my wife's intervention, I was able to do it. But that was, once I realized that the kind of cause of all my pain was stemming from my teenage years and what had happened, I really wanted to expose it under the brightest light and just drive it away. So I was just like, that's it. I'll be as open as I possibly can. I didn't want to have any it was like chemo, you know, like you want it to work. And it was painful, but myself and my family have come through it together, and you know, my past as a result is not a prison for me, and I'm no longer a victim. I now consider myself a survivor, and I'm straightforward, and I can move forward, and I do. And I'm not burdened by this fear anymore.
How would you describe the Sean McCann before you opened up about this and faced this to the Sean McCann now who's sitting here today?
The Sean McCann that's sitting here today is stronger. And the Sean McCann that's sitting here today is free, because I'm free from fear. I mean, I'm always, you know, we all have our fear, we all have anger, we all have pain in our lives, but I believe that by facing them, for me, I really believe that there's no problems but solutions. I learned it the hard way. And, but I approach life with far greater confidence, that I'm able to, because I'm not burdened by drink, I can make decisions clearly, you know, and move and have some confidence that they may be right. And if they're wrong, sure, I'll fix that too. I'll figure it out. You know, alcoholism, addiction is a horrible affliction that can just prevent you from living an authentic life. And I would say that is how I would describe myself now. It's like I'm out I just want to live honestly, because there's only one shot at this. Why waste it? So that's where my headspace is. It's a big change from living in fear, hiding in a bottle, never knowing if you're going to be right or wrong. Like, that's a horrible way to live. And I do a lot of public speaking now, and I do volunteering with a lot of addictions, mental health issues. And you know, if the guy from Great Big Sea can walk into a detox center, a mental health addiction center, tell my story, walk in sober. You know, the guy from Great Big Sea walks in sober, and I walk out again an hour later. That's a strong message for people who are suffering from that affliction. And it helps people, and it gives me a sense of purpose. So that's the path I'm on now. I think that's far more important to me than, you know, selling black rum to 10,000 people in a hockey rink.
Since this time, since you know, you stopped playing with Great Big Sea, and then you've taken on this new path and opened up publicly, you have a new CD that came out of this. You talk a lot about how music is medicine. How did music heal you?
When I first sobered up, the first thing that kind of happened was I lost all my friends. A lot of my friends were big partiers, and good, you know, just that was the scene I was in here in St. John's.
So it's really a life change.
Yeah, I mean, people didn't really know. I lost a lot of friends just like that, you know, and people didn't know what to make of me, not even on the great big bus. Like, they just, you know, and I guess people I tried and failed before to quit drinking, but people were expecting me to fail again, I guess. So but I lost contact with everyone. It was very quick, and I felt very much alone, and I was. And then, of course, I remember after about 3 months, these nightmares came back about what had happened. And, you know, I really, really wanted to drink. Like, that was my,
that was the
revealed
go-to.
itself as this is why, you know, and it became, so I was alone, and I wanted to drink to just forget. I don't want those memories in my head. I don't want to face that. So what do? I drink, right? And but I didn't reach for the bottle of whiskey. I reached for Earl Brown, my guitar, first guitar I ever bought, and I just started to sing, pour my heart into the guitar. And I've always written songs, but these were different songs. They weren't about, you know, you're okay, I'm okay, have a pint. They were about what I'd endured. They were about my pain. They were sincere, I guess, approaches to try to deal with it, you know. And so I learned from that, and it worked. And the result was Help Yourself, the CD. That kind of told the story of my recovery. And it all came out in those songs, like Hold Me Mother and Stronger. And so I was able to use the guitar for something other than what I had used it for in the past. Like, it was a completely different use. And I mean, it was a personal record. I didn't use a label or anything. It was my story, and I felt I really wanted to tell it. And I just put it out there. But by putting the record out there just on Bandcamp and Facebook and Twitter, you know, thousands of people, it resonated with people. And everyone's, like, thousands of people are emailing me, Facebooking me, buying the record and saying, I know this story. This is my, I know this song. This song is my mother.
When I was 15, I met the Pope. When I was 16, I met rum and coke. You were so disappointed when I left him behind. Find me a fate wasn't so blind. Something I did or I didn't do. Hold me, mother, I need some protection. There's cracks in these walls up on closer inspection.
My story of addiction and abuse was not just me, because that you isolate yourself, and it wasn't. This is something that is all too pervasive in society, and addiction is something that touches far too many lives, and as does the sexual abuse and mental health. And but the positive thing that came back was that, well, this affected people positively because they felt they weren't alone, but their feedback made me realize that I was not alone. And together, we are not alone. And so that really set me on this, reaffirmed my decisions and confirmed that I'd made the right ones, and gave me a sense of purpose. And I just started to follow that very different, almost the opposite path of where I was. And I followed up with the songbook, You Know I Love You, which the idea was to provide lyrics and chords so people could literally sing with me. And it was I guess, a more, Help Yourself is not a downer record. It's a true record, and it's a story, it's a success story for sure. And You Know I Love You it kind of describes my headspace 2 years later. Like, this is where life is now. And this is why you should endeavor to face your problems, because it's worth it. Because you'll be happier. You'll probably live longer and with fewer regrets. So from now on in, I'll just follow that path. And because I'm open, I keep encountering people like Easter Seals, so many people who I wouldn't have been open to before, that changed my life.
You mentioned regrets. You know, everybody has something in their lives, of course, that maybe they would want to take a different path or chose not to do something or other. Yeah. When you look back and you reflect on everything that you've done, is there anything that you regret, or do you take that as, you know, I experienced that and I've learned from that?
I wish I'd had the courage to come out and face my demons before, but I believe I was literally crippled by alcohol, and I was hiding in the perfect place in Great Big Sea for many years. I wish I could, and everything happens for a reason. I don't know, but I wish that period of time was less, but I'll make up for that. And honestly, I wish the last tour we did was literally not even on speaking terms. It was such an insincere, because people didn't know, I guess, and eventually I just Facebooked it and said, this is, the last thing. But I wish we'd ended that better, and I'll take 1/3 of the blame for that. But that was I don't know, that wasn't worth the money. And many things in life aren't. But I wish if I had my time back, I would have not done that one. As proud as I am as the work we did, in many ways, but that was one step too far.
Looking towards the future now, You know, you have this songbook, you have the Help Yourself CD. You've done very well as a solo artist. As you said, you're doing a lot of public speaking. You know, what do you see for Sean McCann in the future?
I like the path I'm on now. The big challenges now are, I think I've really, like my show, because it's so unscripted and my speeches are, I don't have a speech written or anything. If there's one thing I learned from Great Big Sea, it was how to read an audience. And now I do small theaters. I don't do bars anymore. I like doing speaking engagements. I always bring my guitar because the message is in the song. Like I don't just say music can help you, I do it. And that's a big difference, and it's led to success on that circuit because there is an industry there. And I don't have an agent, I don't have a manager, I don't have a label. I work 14 hours a day. I average between 60 and 80 emails a day, but no one can misrepresent me. If I make a mistake, it's my fault. And it's probably best that way. It keeps me out of trouble. More importantly, me being really busy is good. So the goal is stay busy, find the balance in life, and I'm getting there, you know. I feel like I'm really moving forward, so that's my path.
Well, Sean, I want to thank you very much for joining me, and all the best in the future.
Thank you very much. I'll come back again next Christmas, I hope. Thank you.